Hi there. This is only a week after my first post about the process of learning the new Billy Taylor tune. I wish I knew how it would feel to be free. So I'm still very much in the early note recognition stages of reading that piece. I've run through it in its entirety with both hands a few times at a glacial pace. The entire piece takes me about 45 minutes to get through, and it's good note reading practice. But while it's fresh in my mind, I wanted to do a quick post about working with different key signatures, because I think this is quite profound. We learn scales traditionally in musical instruction as a sort of fundamental. You just sort of practice the scales, and I think the reason a lot of people are comfortable sight reading tunes that are scale heavy rather than vertical kind of block chords or hymnals and that kind of thing is because they're used to recognizing scales, and a lot of classical pieces are based around scales. So if you learn to read because of scales, then you will find that quite limiting. But the way that key signatures really work best, I think, or that I found anyway while I've been teaching myself to read music, is that you still just focus on the intervals of the white notes and then apply the key signature afterwards. And that's when it becomes useful to know the scale. So here's what I'm talking about. Okay, so in this section, we have a key change. So we've gone from the relatively simple F major to the somewhat more complicated A flat major. And when I'm reading the notes in A flat major, let's find a sort of one that's got a bit more chords rather than the solo piece. So here we go. Now I'm still just applying the same sort of intervals that I always did, but then I just look at get awareness of where I am on the keyboard and what notes I'm playing, and then I can apply the key signature afterwards. And if you practice that over and over again, it becomes quite habitual because you know the transposition doesn't happen on the page. So I don't have to look up here and go, all right, well, this note's an E, and do I have an E flat? Yes. So therefore I have to play this note flat. You don't have to do that. What you do is you say, okay, let's look at this. We've got a symmetrical C is the second ledger line above. It's the C with a fourth above it, right? So you see this ledger line here, two spaces above a line, that's a fourth. And so that's the top note. And then we've got the space below that C, which is the B. And then we've got the fourth below that, which is the F again. So you could also look at the top and bottom notes, see that it's an octave, and then play the note in between. But either way, so you just play that interval, and then you would apply the key signature afterwards. And in the key of A flat major, we've got four flats, right? So that's when it becomes useful to know this scale, is that because I can now see that every time I play a B, I actually have to play a B flat. So I don't need to know that it was flat or whatever while I was playing it here. And in this case, it's got an accidental that makes it natural anyway, so I'll play that note. And let's find some other chords here. So here are some interesting intervals. Here, we've got a space above a symmetrical C, so that's here. And this is a really common kind of interval pattern. You've got a bottom note and then a fourth above it and then all thirds. Right, so space and two lines up and then line, line, line. So as long as I know the bottom note, which I do, it's one space above this symmetrical C, which is an E, then I just start at a fourth up, and that's my interval. Oops, that's my interval. But then I have to apply the key signature to it. Right, so the C is natural in an A flat major, and the E is flat, A is flat, and E is flat. Okay, so I can go through this quite quickly. You see I've got a symmetrical C up the top here with thirds below it. So symmetrical C, two ledger lines above the treble clef, jump down a fourth, and then space, space, space. So that's a really easy shape to get. And then I just have to apply my key signature, and in this case it's only flattening the E, which is actually an accidental anyway. So, and then you see here again, we've got space, 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 and then jump down a fourth. So because I was already sort of on this shape here, I can quickly do space, 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 jump down a fourth, and then apply the key signature. So that's how you can work with key signatures really effectively, reading based on intervals. All the transposition of the notes happens on the keyboard, and you kind of just get to know the shape of the scale that you're working with. And that then becomes your motivation for learning a scale. So rather than just saying, okay, I'm going to run the A flat major scale for the hell of it, like the reason I'm running the A flat major scale is so that I'm really familiar with how to transpose, so that when I play this interval, it becomes really automatic that when I see C, jump up a fourth and then line, 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 I know that I'm actually going to be playing that shape. And that when I move that down, it's going to go there. Yep. So that's just a brief kind of interlude in my progress on this particular tune to talk about how I'm dealing with key signatures while it was fresh in my mind.